Alright guys, I am back with my review of this week's TNA Impact Wrestling for August 8th, 2013, and we see that Taz, Bully Ray, and Anderson have cornered Mike Tenay backstage, and Taz says that he's doing the show tonight. Tenay has to leave the building. They threaten him, bully him, so Tenay just leaves. Taz, Bully, and Anderson come out. Taz gets on commentary and he starts yelling at Jeremy Borash while Bully says, "Abuse him! Abuse him!" So, we get Taz, Borash, and so far Mr. Anderson on commentary this week. So this is already off to a bad start. And Bully's in the ring and he says that Tito Ortiz came out last week. He wasn't impressed. He calls him Blondie, even though Tito has no hair. And then he starts talking about Sabin. And Sabin comes out and cuts a promo on Bully, says that he's full of shit, his eyes are brown, and his breath smells like feces. Brooke Hogan comes out and says that there's something in Bully Ray's contract. If he wants the rematch at Hardcore Justice, then if he loses the match, he never gets a world title shot ever again. So Bully Ray's like, I'm not going to sign that. I'm not going to be bullied by some measly Hogans. And then Brooke gets in the ring and implies that Bully has a small penis, and this makes him sign the contract. So Sabin signs it, so next week it's going to be still cage match, Sabin versus Bully, and if Bully loses, he never gets another world title shot. So right now I'm thinking Bully Ray is going to win the match, unless he loses and then he comes back with his Kevin Nash lawyer again or something. Alright, so we get Samoa Joe versus Jeff Hardy. Thought the match was okay, nothing really special here. In fact, it kind of looked a little sloppy in some places, like when Jeff Hardy would hit moves instead of just, the leg move where he drops his legs and hits the guy in the abdomen. Instead of just like hitting the move, it was kind of like he just fell on fucking Joe. But I'm just kind of nitpicking with that. Anyways, the finish is Anderson is still on commentary. I guess this is going to go on throughout the rest of the night. And Samoa Joe has Jeff Hardy in the choke. Anderson stands up at the commentary table, and Joe gets completely thrown off his game by this, allowing Hardy to escape the choke and roll him up for the win. So I'm not really enjoying the Taz-Anderson duo on commentary with Jeremy Borash. I think they're really just oversaturating the aces and eights at this point, just putting them out there way too much. And you have to remember that even the NWO got played out, and that shit was amazing. The aces and eights, this has gone on far too long, and it's just a group of a bunch of jobbers, and two of them have been fired, D'Lo Brown and Doc. So I don't know what they're thinking putting these guys out here on commentary, and Taz is completely useless, as we all know. And then we see Christopher Daniels cut a promo on Kazarian. He says Kazarian is being selfish. They have a match tonight for the BFG series, and Christopher Daniels thinks he should be the one to go over, but Kazarian thinks he should go over. Alright, so we get Anderson versus Magnus. It was okay, and then Bobby Roode comes out with a chair, and Magnus and Anderson are like, what the hell is he doing out here? And then Bobby Roode hits Anderson with the chair, and then smiles at Magnus and walks away. And the reason they give for this happening, because at first I was like, what the fuck just happened? I mean, did I miss something last week? Was there something building towards Roode versus Magnus? But I guess the reason is Bobby Roode's been doing really bad in the BFG series. Magnus has been doing awesome. He's got the most points. So Bobby Roode got Magnus disqualified so that he would lose some points in the BFG series. But that still wouldn't help Roode. I mean, Roode still has no points, I think. Alright, so Bobby Roode is backstage, and he says what he just did to Magnus changes the game up, and he just took away 10 points from the leader of the BFG series, and this changes the landscape of things. So I assume he's just going to keep getting involved in people's BFG series matches and getting them disqualified. I still don't know how this helps him, but he did say he has 7 points in the BFG series. But if all he does is run around and get people disqualified so that they lose 10 points, eventually, wouldn't someone get pissed off and get Bobby Roode disqualified? And then not only does he lose his measly 7 points, but he goes into the negatives. This still doesn't make sense on how this would help Bobby Roode win the BFG series. But anyways, then we see Robbie E. and Jesse talking backstage, and they said that they got rid of Tara, who was released by TNA, because it's bromance before romance. So that explains Tara's absence. And then Mickie James comes up and says that she's the star and they're going to have a match against Storm and Gunner and ODB. So Sabin has a match against Bully Ray and Devon tonight, and he needs a tag team partner. And he tells Sting and Kurt Angle that he has a plan, but it's going to require some trust on their part. Then Tito Ortiz comes out, and before you can tell anybody why he's in TNA, Kurt Angle comes down and he says, you know what, I respect you, I'm going to keep my distance and respect your space, but I expect you to respect mine as well. Isn't this the exact same thing they did with Kurt Angle and Rampage before he joined the Main Event Mafia? Like the exact same thing. But then Bully Ray comes down, and this was pretty awesome. He says, so you guys respect each other. I don't respect either one of you. I could make you tap out, and I've been beating Kurt Angle's ass for 10 years already. So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, it doesn't really explain why Tito Ortiz is in TNA. It was just, I guess he's on good terms with the Main Event Mafia, and somehow, some way, this has to build to Tito Ortiz versus Rampage Jackson, I'm thinking, to promote their big Bellator fight. So I don't really know what they're going to do storyline-wise with Tito and TNA, but I guess we just have to wait and see on that one. They probably don't even know what they're going to do yet. So we get the tag team match with Storm and Gunner and ODB versus the Bromance with Mickie James. And I thought the match was fine. Storm hits the super kick on Jesse, and they hit the power slam neckbreaker combo on Robbie E for the win. But the match was fine. My problem with this is it seems like they split up Austin Aries and Bobby Roode. Bad Influence are doing their own thing in the BFG series. So the tag team division is Storm and Gunner and the Bromance. That's pretty much the entire tag team division in TNA right now. So it's not looking good for the tag team division at the moment. And to be honest, all four of those teams, even though Bad Influence does come across as a real tag team, they've done a very good job with that. But still, all four of those teams are just two guys thrown together. The Bromance, Storm and Gunner, Austin Aries and Bobby Roode, and Bad Influence. They were all just two guys thrown together. So I was kind of disappointed with that. But still, I mean, what are you going to do? TNA is releasing people. They're not bringing people in right now, except for Tito Ortiz. But I think that's something to do with Bellator. So the tag team division is in very bad shape with TNA right now. And if it's true the American Wolves are in talks with TNA and WWE, TNA desperately needs a team like the American Wolves. And then we see Kazarian cutting a promo about Christopher Daniels and how Christopher Daniels is underestimating him when he's a 5-time X Division champion. So it's Kazarian versus Christopher Daniels, and they decide to do a double count out. They don't want to wrestle each other anymore, so they both go outside and stand on the ramp, and Earl Hebner is counting to 10, and I really thought that one of these guys was going to run in at the last second when he got to 9 or something like that. But no, it's a double count out. Bobby Roode comes out, and he says that there's 2 members of the Main Event Mafia in the BFG series, 1 member of the Aces and Eights, and there's strength in numbers, so he joins up with Bad Influence. I guess they don't have a name for them yet, or maybe they're just going to all 3 be Bad Influence, but yeah, Bobby Roode has joined up with Christopher Daniels and Kazarian. And I was thinking a little bit more about the tag team situation in TNA, and at first I was kind of thinking, you know, I would like to see the American Wolves on television somewhere, but would TNA really use them properly, or would it just be a waste? And you have to weigh the pros and cons here. They would make more money in WWE for sure. I mean, that's the place you should want them to go as a fan, I guess, just so that they can finally get a big payday. But also for their career, you have to think, if they go to WWE, they're going to be stuck in developmental for possibly a year, if not longer. And in TNA, they get to instantly be on television, and they can work their style more in a company like TNA. In WWE, they have to follow the WWE style of working. They're on the road more, and I know Davey Richards doesn't like that at all. So for TNA, I think the American Wolves would be a good fit as long as they use them properly. So we get the main event, which is Team 3D versus Sabin and his mystery partner, Sting. So Sting's walking with Sabin to the ring, and then Kurt Angle attacks Team 3D from behind, revealing himself to be Sabin's real tag team partner. I thought they had a good match here. Team 3D hits Kurt Angle with the 3D. Bully Ray sets up a table, and he tries to spear Sabin through the table, but Sabin moves. Bully Ray goes through the table. Sabin beats him with a crossbody off the top. I thought it was a good match, but it does make me wonder about Hardcore Justice. It seems like the company's behind Sabin, but at the same time, the way he's been beating Bully Ray makes me think they're going to put the belt back on Bully, especially with his win here. I really hope they don't do that. I hate to see titles change hands often, and I would like to see Sabin get a good run with the belt. And I mean, they could still do something with Bully Ray losing next week and bringing his lawyer in. But yeah, this whole thing with Sabin beating Bully tonight just makes me wonder about that. But yeah, I'm not sure what they're going to do with this storyline wise. However, I thought this was an okay show this week. I did like the main event, but then you had stuff like Christopher Daniels versus Kazarian, which they said the fans voted for, and they didn't even have a match really. They just did a few moves and then went straight to the double count out, which was convenient since it set up the whole Bobby Roode coming out and being with the two of them. But yeah, it was kind of disappointing they didn't let them work an actual match. So I didn't really think this was the best show ever. They've definitely done better shows than this. But this one was just kind of average to me this week. So I'm looking forward to Hardcore Justice though, because they do have a ladder match with, I think, Hardy, Aries, AJ, and Bobby Roode, if I'm not mistaken. And that should be a really good match. Plus you have the steel cage match with Sabin and Bully Ray. And I'm sure they have some other stuff planned for the Hardcore Justice show. But yeah, not really too excited about this week's Impact. But anyways, that's my review. Hope you guys liked the video. Leave your thoughts on this week's show in the comments. And thanks for watching.